now it is my pleasure to welcome on to the guest line Nurse Anna, as we will refer to her through this interview. She is with Mercy, and she has been on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic for the last, 4 or 5 weeks. And my goodness, we can't be more appreciative of your dedication to your profession. How are you, Anna?
Good, thank you. I'm doing great. Happy to be back at work. I just got back from maternity leave. So it's only been a couple weeks, actually. So I kind of came into a whole new work environment. It was a big change for me.
So give us your eyes. What have you seen? What's been happening, and how severe are the cases in your unit?
So in the hospitals, we dedicated one unit. It's a 36-bed unit specifically for COVID patients. A lot of these patients, though, they have other underlying health issues and comorbidities. So what this virus is doing is it's exacerbating all these are like diabetes, renal failure. It's making them a lot worse, and that's actually what's causing a lot of these deaths. We have had a few younger cases where it was just a total fluke, and this virus kind of put them right downhill. But it's really the same thing, and we're trying to treat all these other health issues, and the COVID's just kind of there. It's exacerbated it, and what we're trying to treat is everything else. So the biggest change is pretty much all the PPE that we have to wear, gowning up, face shields, going in and out of rooms. People are trying to jump out of bed. If someone goes into cardiac arrest, before we get in the room, we have to gown up and clean our face shield, do all these things before we can even get in the room and get on their chest and do compressions. So that's the hardest part, is trying to adapt to that change.
And for you, I've asked you this, but when you first decided that you wanted to become a nurse, it's impossible to see years down the road that you could be working in a situation during a global pandemic. But was there any sort of schooling that could have prepared you for this moment, or is that impossible to think about?
No, and I mean, really, I don't think that anything can, especially like mentally and emotionally, prepare someone for this. It was definitely taught in school and during orientation when you begin at a hospital under any position. I'm pretty sure I remember there being, we learned about it and stuff, but it was never like something we actually expected to happen.
So what happens with all of the, stuff that you have to wear? I mean, what your get up is extremely excessive right now.
Correct. And it is. So we gown up, we put, our gown and gloves on, and, patients who have like other, before all this happened, if they have C. diff, if they have any other like MRSA, any other things that are contagious, and we'll usually just put a gown and gloves on, or even just a mask if they have the flu. But now it's just different. So we have to put a gown, gloves, a hairnet, and then we put an N95 on, and then we put a face shield over it. And the face shield has foam on it. You've probably seen in like pictures and stuff, or on the news. And it's really there kind of to collect sweat, because we're sweating in these rooms. We have to clean these patients up. We have to get under the chairs and do all these things that we were still doing before. Just the whole process of getting into the room is a big deal. So we have to cluster care when we're in there. If we forget something or we need something, we have to knock on the window and hope that someone can come up to the window, or else we have to de-gown, clean our face shield, change our mask, get our stuff, go back in the room. That's really the hardest part. I feel safe. I definitely feel very safe. We have everything we need. And if we need a new mask, we can get one. But we wear our masks for 3 days, and then for 3 shifts, and then we throw them out. And then we have our face shields until they break. So some people have had their face shields throughout the whole pandemic.
But it just gets uncomfortably hot with all that stuff on, and moving from room to room and constantly changing. It's just got to be a tedious task to constantly consider.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of sweat. Luckily, no one can smell it because they're all wearing masks. But I'd imagine that it smells pretty bad with all these people running around. Yeah.
So let me ask you, what is something that, we on the outside looking in could do for a nurse that we know in our lives? What right now do you guys need from us? Probably just to stay out of the way like normal.
Well, I mean, yeah, but honestly, I think that the best thing for nurses is just showing your appreciation. Even just like kind words, it really does mean a lot. Because it's patients at the bedside. When they like can't stop thanking us, like it makes my day. Because the patient next door might be confused, and he might think I'm trying to kill him, which is really hard to take care of someone who is mad at you and thinks that you're trying to hurt them. So just hearing it from a patient or anyone outside, family, everyone, words of appreciation, I think, are the best thing for nurses right
Do,
now,
do you
or anyone, respiratory therapists. There's a lot of people. It's not just nurses. I had a patient last night who needed to be intubated like urgently at the bedside. The respiratory therapist was the first person I called.
Wow. Do you think, because I see these signs that's like, we're in this together, and I'm sort of like, well, I guess I'm in it, but I'm not on the COVID unit. I'm not gowning up in uncomfortable degree temperatures and working directly with patients who have contracted COVID-19. I mean, I'm in it in terms of I'm ready to defeat it, but you guys are the one that are literally living it. So I don't know. I kind of take offense to that we're in this together, just because why should I be put on the same pedestal as the great nurses and frontline workers? I don't see eye to eye with that.
Yeah, and I see where you're coming from. I definitely do. But that's where you see all these pictures of people saying, we go to work for you, so stay home for us. It's really hard for people. Like, it's taking like a mental toll on a lot of people, just to be staying home. Like you saw the Ozarks, I'm sure these people were going crazy, and that's why they had to go down there. But it's so, even just staying home and quarantining like we have been for the past few months, that's hard on people. But that's why, healthcare professionals are asking to stay home. So we really are all in it together. You do your part, we'll do our part.
Mm-hmm. The hardest part, as you've told me, and we're talking with a nurse from Mercy, Nurse Anna, as we're calling her here on this show. You've said the hardest part is that family members, no visitors, and when somebody's going through something, the inability to just see a familiar face or a loved one is just devastating.
Yeah, it is. And I had a 40-something-year-old last week, and I'm taking care of these patients, but I'm forgetting that, his wife's not at the bedside, whereas like she called me, she's like, make sure he's drinking this, make sure he's getting up, and I'm not even realizing like he doesn't have his partner there to encourage him to do it. So, I go into his room and I like kicked his butt. I was like, get into the chair, do this. Your wife called me. I can't believe I haven't thought about this. So it is like you kind of realize how much like family members are like a big, big help when they are at the bedside. So it's really hard not to have them there. It's for the nurses and for the patients, and especially if these patients are going downhill quickly. We do let patients, if they go on comfort measures where basically we keep them comfortable and they're ready to go, we do let family members come up to the hospital and sit with them. But if something happens and they're going downhill quickly, we got to get a hold of the family. They have to get up there, and sometimes they don't make it. Sometimes they don't get to say goodbye. And that's, I think, what the hardest part is, trying to, just sit by their side and watch them go on your own because the family can't get up there.
You were an athlete growing up. You played sports. Do you look at your current profession when a new patient arrives as like almost a game, and you got to take it quarter by quarter to get the person healthy and ultimately, hopefully, discharged from the hospital?
Yeah, because, you start planning that right when they get there. And, yeah, it definitely feels like that sometimes. And, also because I have my team there. I don't know what I would do without my people that I work with. That was one of the reasons I was so ready to get back to work. It's a really cool environment when you have your team with you. And it kind of feels like a race when they get there. But you have to sit back and be like, okay, what do I need to do first? You really have to think about it when these patients get up there.
And you've seen, even personally in your own immediate family, you've had sisters who have seen their work cut because of nobody's going to the hospital for elective surgeries. So many jobs right now in the medical profession are being lost because there's just not patients.
Right. Yeah. They can't elective surgeries, any testing and stuff. They've put a lot of that on hold. So hospitals have lost a lot of money. Therefore, a lot of jobs have been cut, and it's really sad. Carly was just traveling in DC as a NICU nurse, and she came home and she can't find another assignment because no one needs a NICU nurse right now. They need critical care nurses working with adults, and all these hospitals are putting hires on hold. So now, she's going to have a rough time getting back into work. Yeah, it's hard. It's sad. It's really sad. I'm very lucky that I have my position, and I was on maternity leave and still got to go back to my position.
So on a happier note, you are a twin yourself, and
Correct.
you gave birth to twins 4 months ago.
Yeah, they're 4 months old, 2 boys.
So now you know what your parents were going through.
Oh yeah, it is. Well, luckily they're my only children. We have an older sister, so she was 2. Holly was 2, I think, when we were born. So yeah, but it's very cool, and it's cool that Carly's back and doesn't have a job, which sounds terrible, but she's here to help me.
That's right. She can babysit.
Right. Yes, she can.
Well,
Yeah.
I think on behalf of so many of us, I just think there's a total gratitude for what you're doing right now, and we sort of have to step back and look at, we don't have sports to talk about. There's not this, there's not that, but there are folks like yourself who are putting your lives at risk and your family's lives at risk while trying to maintain a family balance and still working tirelessly to get patients healthy. And from the bottom of my heart, I couldn't say more than thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
That's the nicest thing I've ever said to you, right?
I think it is. I should have recorded that. Are you recording this?
I am recording. So you can send that clip to me time and time again every time that I'm not being as nice. But
I'll just remind you. Yeah.
We go way back, and honestly,
we do.
you're a good friend, and I am very proud of where you're at and what you're doing, and seriously, keep up the good work, and all the best health to you and your babies.
Thank you, Nate.
And your husband.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nate.
All right, I appreciate it. Nurse Anna joining us from Mercy Hospital, where she's been working on the COVID unit. And we will step aside for a brief timeout. We'll come back, close out hour number 1 next. You're listening to the Sports Report on JOCK 98.7 FM.